I think that that's a good explanation of how the loss of absolute simultaneity is a radical adjustment to
Sure.
our common sense notion of time. Sure. But that's usually only half of what scientists will claim is eradicated by relativity. The other half of the picture is Minkowski spacetime, this wedding together of space and time into spacetime. It seems like when you view these graphical representations of spacetime as this four-dimensional structure, that seems to lend itself to this ontological claim about space and time of the four-dimensional block universe view, that there really is no difference between past, present, and future. All events in time are equally real, and the passage of time, temporal becoming, is an illusion. That's a prominently held theory of time. And then the claim is that relativity lends itself to that theory. So it's not just the loss of simultaneity, it's also this loss of a genuine distinction between past, present, and future. Do you think that's the case, or is it not?
I think that's nonsense.
Okay.
No, I think there's nothing to that. I think that's just ridiculous. I can explain why, but I just want to tell you up front. I think everything you said, you are absolutely saying what a whole bunch of people will say.
Right.
I think if you
step back
and look at it, it's complete nonsense. All right.
Okay.
First of all, I mean, people say, oh, there's this four-dimensional block universe. You can write down Newtonian mechanics in a four-dimensional manifold. You usually do. 3 space and 1 time. It's 4 dimensions. Okay. So a Newtonian universe described as it is starting at the beginning and going to the end, that description will be a 4-dimensional description. Does that mean nothing happens for Newton? Does that mean time doesn't exist? Of course not. Why would you think that? I mean, it's just crazy. You don't get rid of time by making a 4-dimensional representation of it, right? That's just a representation. If you want to say, well, my mathematical thing isn't moving, well, what the heck? What were you expecting? As I say, it's not that the block, I mean, people use this word like the block is frozen or the block is static or something. They don't understand. No, the block is not in time. Time is in it. That's why it's 4-dimensional. Because it has not only space but time, and things in it can move because they're in a thing that has a time structure. It has a temporal structure. Now, you know, in relativity, the spatiotemporal structure is different from Newton, but not in a way that gets rid of time, and not that in a way that gets rid of the direction of time, and not in a way that gets rid of the distinction between past and future. I mean, it's standard in relativity to talk about the past light cone and the future light cone. And that's because there's a difference between past and future. And it's standard to only explain things going on now by reference to the past. I mean, I like that, you know, here's a simple example. The Earth right now is somewhere in the orbit around the sun. And if someone were to come up to a relativist and say, explain to me why the Earth is right here right now, they could certainly say the following thing. You might be dissatisfied at some level, but what they're saying isn't crazy. They say, look, a year and a half ago, here's where the Earth was. And here's the mass of the sun, and here's the other planets, and here's the laws of gravity and general relativity. And you solve all that, and you see, given that the Earth is going to orbit, and then right now it's going to be here. Okay? Now, people would say, yeah, that's kind of an explanation. Here's something they would never do. They would never say, you know, in 2.5 years, the Earth is going to be over there. And if you start over there and then time reverse this calculation, that brings it back here. That explains why it's here now. You're going to say, what do you mean that explains why it's here now? That doesn't make any sense. You don't appeal to the future to explain the present. You appeal to the past to explain the present. And that's as true in relativity as anywhere else. So yes, all it is to say that the universe is 4-dimensional is pretty simple. To locate an event like that, I need 4 numbers. Latitude, a longitude, an altitude, and a time. 4 numbers, 4-dimensional. Did I just make time go away? No. Does time go away in relativity? No. it has a different structure. It's expressed by what's called the proper time along a trajectory, but the proper time is time. The block isn't static. I mean, it doesn't even make any sense. The block isn't in time. Things that are not in time can't be static. They can't move, but they can't be static either, because what static means is stays the same as time goes on, right? For me to be static, that takes some time, right? For me to be static, I have to freeze. And that freezing has to last a period of time. If it doesn't, then I didn't freeze. So something that itself is not in time and is not persisting through time can neither move nor can it be static. It can't be frozen either. Those are just the wrong concepts. So when they say the four-dimensional thing is static, it's just gibberish.
So I did read that in an interview that you gave, and I think that's a good point. But I'm still not clear on your ontology of time, because I think that even the B theorist of time, the eternalist view of time, the proponent of that view, will agree with you that, like,
before you go on, can you tell me what you understand by that view? Just tell me what you think it says.
So I would contrast it with presentism. The presentism, they're not the only two options for one's ontology of time, but a presentist metaphysic would say that only presently existing things are real. And so
you don't think Socrates is real? Is Socrates a
I think that he's real in the sense. No, I think he's real in the sense that he did exist, or rather, according to.
Okay, so that's reality, right? That's the difference between reality and fiction.
Right. So I think
dinosaurs are real.
You what?
Dinosaurs are real. They're not made up.
They're not made up.
There aren't any right now, but they're real.
Right, but they no longer exist.
Yes, they no longer exist, but they're real.
So, agreed. I mean, yeah, it depends on how you parse the terms, but you do agree, though, that there is a difference between a eternalist and a presentist metaphysic, or are you arguing that they're actually
the only sense I can make out of presentism is the claim that the only thing that exists is the present moment? I can't make any sense out of that.
Okay.
So yeah, that's different, but if that's the alternative, I don't know how anybody can hold it. Because again, you have this problem. Here is a fact: Socrates existed.
Yes.
You need, for that to be a fact, you have to have something that makes it true. What makes it true is nothing going on right now. What makes it true is stuff that went on in the past. But if you say, oh, there is no past, then you've got nothing that'll make that sentence true. And now all of a sudden we don't have Socrates anymore.
Right. So this would be like the grounding objection to a presentist theory of time, that if you say that the only things that are real are presently existing things, then how can there be facts about the past?
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I think that the right response would be to say that facts about the past. So the fact that Socrates existed is made true by the fact that there once was the object Socrates, rather than the fact that there is a presently existing object Socrates.
What kind of a fact is the fact that there once was a presently existing Socrates, given that that fact is that fact in the present?
The fact is, right, there once was
what aspect of the present makes that true? What aspect, what metaphysical aspect of the present makes that true?
Well, I think it would be that what the presentists would have to say is they would have to disagree with this account of grounding, that all truths have to be grounded in objects that present or that obtain. And it just comes down to which you think is more intuitively plausible, that all facts have to be grounded in that way, or that past objects exist in the same way that present objects do. And I would say that the latter is less plausible.
In the same way present objects do. I mean,
right, in the tense.
As David Lewis once said, people in the Middle Ages who had cancer, they were in pain, and their pain was just as real, right? It's not fictive pain, it's real pain. They hurt as much as we do. Don't downgrade stuff that happened in the past because it happened in the past. It just is real. I mean, again, the first distinction is between real and fictional.
Yes.
The past is not fictional.
Right.
So it's real.
Well, okay. But your analysis would then suggest that there's no difference between presentism and eternalism.
What I said is I can't make any sense out of presentism.
I see.
And
I see. Okay.
Eternalism is trivial.
Okay.
Eternalism, again, people get worried. Just does the future exist? And you want to say, well, look, Quine introduced a technical use of the word is. He did this for this purpose. He says, I'm going to introduce a slightly unusual technical use of the word is, which means is, was, or will be. Okay? That's just what it means. So in that technical sense of the term, there are dinosaurs. Are there, manned colonies on Mars? We don't know, but there's a fact. Either there are or there aren't, which is just another way of saying either there will be or there won't be. Or as I say, the deep philosophical insight of Doris Day, que sera, sera, right? There was one past, there will be one future, there is one present, and all the facts that are facts about reality are determined what they are by that entire collection. They're all equally real. Now, some haven't happened yet. Some have, some are going to happen to the future of now. That doesn't make them any less real.
Right. Okay. I'll have to think about that. I'm not entirely committed on a theory of time, but I have presentist leanings, so I'll have to contemplate this.
Well, I appreciate you will admit if you're a presentist, then you should be worried about relativity, because relativity takes away the thing we normally call the present, yes, which is this preferred simultaneous.
Yes.
But
and William Lane Craig is,
I mean,
right.
The stuff going on that slice right now, to me, is way, 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 way too thin to provide truth conditions for everything I think that has truth conditions, including Socrates' existence. I don't know that you could derive it from anything there. Now, you can put kind of ghosty facts on it. The fact that Socrates once existed, I hereby denominate a thing that presently exists on this thin little slice. But what kind of a ghosty fact is that? I mean, I'm happy with facts about electrons and protons and stuff like that. What is this ghosty fact that Socrates once existed that is a presently existing thing on this instantaneous slice? I don't know.